Let me tell you something. If you thought today was going to be just another ordinary Wednesday, think again. Because right now, as you're reading this, the United States is essentially running several weather disasters at the same time, all at once, like some kind of atmospheric juggling act gone wrong, and I'm not being dramatic here. This is as literal as it gets. Down in the deep south, severe storms are already spinning up. We're talking tornadoes, tree-snapping winds, and hailstones the size of golf balls, all very much on the menu today. Meanwhile, up in Wyoming and Colorado, a jaw-dropping late-season snowstorm is dumping what could end up being a whopping 4 feet of snow in the highest mountain elevations. In May. Yes, you read that right. May. And if that wasn't enough to raise your eyebrows, a brutal heat dome is quietly but aggressively muscling its way into the southwest, and it's going to obliterate temperature records by next week. Oh, and underneath all of that, there's a much bigger story quietly brewing in the background, one that's going to reshape the weather picture for the entire rest of 2026 in ways that are honestly hard to wrap your head around. We'll get to that. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for it. This is genuinely one of those rare days where every single corner of the country is dealing with something serious. So let's dig in, region by region, piece by piece. The South is under the gun. Right now, let's kick things off with what's happening across the South. Because this threat isn't coming, it's already here, and it's ramping up fast. The Storm Prediction Center has slapped a slight risk designation across a corridor that runs from Tyler and Waco in Texas, cuts through the Shreveport area, and pushes all the way into Mississippi and Alabama. Scattered severe storms are expected to fire up this afternoon and evening, and I really need you to pay attention to the specific geography here, because this system is zeroing in on communities that have been enjoying a surprisingly quiet stretch of weather for months. We're talking about places like Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, Huntsville, and Florence in Alabama, Jackson, Meridian, and Laurel in Mississippi, the entire Shreveport corridor in Louisiana. These areas sailed through all of April without any meaningful severe weather to speak of. That quiet spell ends today. So what's actually driving all of this? Here's the atmospheric setup in plain English. There's a trough, basically a dip in the jet stream, that's carrying a distinctly subtropical flavor pushing across the deep south. This is not the typical Canadian-born cold front that's been calling the shots all week. This system is pulling in Gulf moisture in a fundamentally different, more aggressive way, and the storm energy it's cooking up along the Gulf Coast states is substantial instability values across that Gulf Coast. Corridor are running between 1,000 and 2,000 joules per kilogram today. To put that in everyday terms, that's more than enough firepower to spin up some seriously organized and dangerous storm structures. Here's how today's storm story unfolds. Hour by hour, early afternoon, discrete supercells kick things off. This is the window where the tornado threat is at its absolute highest. These isolated supercells, operating in today's wind shear environment, are fully capable of producing significant, long-track tornadoes, especially across East Texas, Louisiana, and western Mississippi. This is the stretch of time I'm watching like a hawk, late afternoon into evening. Those same storms are expected to consolidate and merge into a squall line. Once that happens, the tornado threat eases back a bit, but the damaging wind threat ramps up considerably. We're talking wind gusts of 60 to 70 miles per hour sweeping through Alabama, Mississippi, and Georgia as evening turns to overnight. That's strong enough to snap trees, tear off roofs, and knock out power across wide areas. City by city breakdown. Know your risk. Let me get specific, because you deserve more than vague regional warnings. Jackson, Mississippi, you are sitting dead center in today's most dangerous zone. If any discrete supercell develops in your corridor this afternoon, treat it as a serious tornado threat immediately. Don't wait for a second warning. Know where your shelter is before noon today. Birmingham and Tuscaloosa, Alabama. You're in the scattered severe storm zone. Your primary threat window is this evening, when the squall line rolls through packing 60-70 mph gusts and a possible embedded tornado. Get your shelter sorted and set those weather alerts. Huntsville and Florence, same timing as Birmingham. Evening hours are your danger window. Don't get caught off guard. Shreveport, Louisiana. The early to mid-afternoon is when supercell development may fire near you. If a tornado warning drops for Caddo or Bossier Parish, you do not pause, you do not hesitate, you go immediately. Atlanta Metro. You're sitting on the eastern fringe of today's risk. Ongoing storms pushing out of Alabama could reach your area overnight into Wednesday evening. Keep those overnight alerts switched on. Tonight is not a calm, clear night. Thursday, May 7th. The threat slides east. The severe weather risk doesn't disappear after today. It just picks up and moves down the road. Thursday shifts the action further east and south, dragging the southeast coastline into the picture. We're looking at an isolated severe weather risk stretching from Mobile, Alabama through Savannah, Georgia, into the Columbia and Myrtle Beach areas of South Carolina, and potentially reaching the Wilmington, North Carolina corridor. Thursday's storms will be outflow boundary-driven, meaning they'll fire up along the boundaries left behind by Wednesday's storms. Coverage will be more scattered and isolated compared to today, but don't let that lull you into complacency. Individual storms along those boundaries can still pack damaging winds and large hail. The flooding threat. This one affects the most people now. Here's the part of this weather story that I think is actually going to affect the most people. And it tends to get overshadowed by the tornado headlines. So I want to give it the attention it genuinely deserves. As this entire system churns through the Tennessee Valley, the southern Appalachians, and the Deep South over the next several days, rainfall totals are going to stack up, and they're going to stack up in areas that are already experiencing drought conditions and sitting on terrain that naturally amplifies flooding risk. That is a dangerous combination. Here are the specific rainfall concerns: Chattanooga, Huntsville, Nashville, and Knoxville. 2 to 4 inches of rain through Thursday morning Atlanta Metro. Same range. 2 to 4 inches Jackson, Mississippi through Monroe. Louisiana, also in that 2 to 4 inch zone. There is a slight risk for excessive rainfall across all of these areas Wednesday into Thursday. And that rating is absolutely earned. The area I'm most worried about? The southern Appalachians, western North Carolina, and eastern Tennessee. Mountain terrain is unforgiving when heavy rain arrives. Those ridges and hollows funnel rainfall directly into creeks and streams at a dramatically accelerated rate. What might cause manageable minor flooding on flat ground can turn into catastrophic flash flooding in a mountain hollow in a matter of minutes. If you live in a flood-prone area of eastern Tennessee, western North Carolina, or anywhere in the southern Appalachians right now, before the rain arrives, you should know your evacuation routes. Know which roads in your area go underwater first. And apply this rule without any exceptions whatsoever. Turn around. Don't drown. 6 inches of moving water is enough to knock a grown adult completely off their feet. 2 feet of water will sweep a vehicle right off the road. No destination, no errand, no shortcut is worth crossing a water-covered road. None. Meanwhile, in Colorado and Wyoming, 4 feet of snow in May. Okay, let me tell you about what's happening out west, because this is one of the most jaw-dropping weather contrasts of the entire spring season. While tornado-warned supercells are firing across the Deep South, a historic late-season snowstorm is burying parts of Wyoming and northern Colorado under absolutely extraordinary snowfall totals. We're talking approximately 4 feet of snow in the highest elevations of the Front Range and northern Colorado mountains. 4 feet of snow in May. The Medicine Bow Range, the Rocky Mountain National Park area, and the higher terrain of northern Wyoming are all sitting under winter storm warnings right now, with some of the highest snow probability forecasts of the entire season, and we're in the first week of May. Remarkable doesn't even begin to cover it. Here's the meteorological explanation. The same amplified atmospheric pattern that's fueling the deep south severe weather is simultaneously dragging brutally cold Canadian air down into the Front Range, Gulf. Moisture is streaming up the eastern slope of the Rockies, running headlong into those sub-zero temperatures at altitude. And the result is snowfall rates that are genuinely extraordinary for this point in the calendar year. Snow levels have dropped below 6,000 feet, which means even relatively lower elevation communities near the mountains are picking up meaningful snow accumulation. That's the I-25 corridor from Cheyenne through Fort Collins and into Denver is looking at a genuinely treacherous Wednesday morning commute. If you have any ability whatsoever to work from home today, do it. If you absolutely must drive, treat this like a mid-January blizzard, because that's essentially what it is. Near zero visibility in the heaviest snow bands, black ice on overpasses, and heavy wet snow that compacts down into something resembling concrete on road surfaces. Here's another sneaky problem that people don't always think about. The trees throughout this region have already fully leafed out for spring. When heavy, wet May snow piles up on full leaf canopies, it's a recipe for catastrophic branch failure and widespread power outages. And restoring power after this kind of tree damage event takes days, not hours, because of the sheer volume and scale of the damage. By Thursday, the snow and gusty winds push eastward into eastern Colorado, southeastern Wyoming, and northwestern Kansas. This storm has legs. If you have any outdoor or travel plans through the Rockies in the next several days, postpone them. Full stop. Now for the big one, the El Niño update that changes everything all right. I need you to stay with me through this section, because what I'm about to share with you is genuinely the most significant long-range weather story of 2026, and possibly one of the most important weather stories in decades. The El Niño situation just received a significant update, and the numbers being spat out by the models right now are honestly stunning. Equatorial Pacific sea surface temperatures have warmed by more than 1 full degree Celsius in just the past month alone. 1 degree in a single month. Let that number settle for a second. To find a comparable rate of warming anywhere in the modern observational record, you have to wind the clock all the way back to 1997, the year that produced the strongest El Niño of the entire 20th century. And here's where things get truly extraordinary. Some of the longest range ensemble guidance is now projecting sea surface temperature anomalies in the equatorial Pacific reaching plus 2.5 to plus 3.0 degrees by November and December. The strongest El Niño ever recorded in the modern era peaked at approximately plus 2.7 degrees. Reading of plus 3.0 would put this event in territory that has never been observed. In the modern satellite era, some guidance is now drawing comparisons to the catastrophic El Niño event of 1877, when historical reconstructions suggest sea surface temperatures may have reached approximately 2.9 degrees above average. If those projections verify, we could be looking at the strongest El Niño in nearly 150 years. Let that sink in. 150 years. The Climate Prediction Center is expected to formally issue a weak El Niño advisory this coming Thursday. But honestly, in practical terms, we're already there. The Southern Oscillation Index, a key atmospheric indicator, was sitting at a strongly positive La Niña value of 1 back in February. It drifted to +7 through March and then absolutely cratered to a negative 30-day average through April. That's a dramatic, whiplash-inducing flip from a strong La Niña signal to an El Niño signal in the space of just 3 months. The subtropical jet stream is already responding and reorganizing. The active storm track across the south, the beneficial rains reaching drought-stricken areas, the cool air shots cycling through the central and eastern U.S. All of that is the El Niño fingerprint expressing itself in real time, right now. What does this mean for the rest of 2026? Let me walk through it season by season, because this affects everyone differently depending on where you live. Summer 2026, June-August. El Niño's grip is somewhat more muted during summer compared to fall and winter, but it's far from absent. The subtropical jet stays active enough to funnel periodic beneficial rainfall into Texas, Louisiana, the Deep South, and the Southeast. Meanwhile, heat builds aggressively across the Southwest and eventually bleeds into the plains and Midwest. Triple-digit temperatures become increasingly routine across West Texas, the desert Southwest, and Southern California. Across the South, dew points climbing toward the 70s are going to create oppressive, genuinely dangerous heat even when the thermometer only reads in the upper 80s or low 90s. Heat advisories and excessive heat warnings will be showing up regularly as we push through June and July. On the hurricane front, El Niño's increased wind shear across the main Atlantic development region should suppress overall activity somewhat, but the Gulf Coast and East Coast still need to stay alert, particularly for systems that spin up closer to shore where El Niño's suppressive influence weakens. Fall 2026, September-November. This is when El Niño really starts to flex its muscles. The subtropical jet becomes increasingly dominant, and storm systems rolling off the Pacific begin tapping into extraordinarily warm ocean waters. Above-average rainfall starts developing across California, the Southwest, the Southern Plains, and the Southeast. October, in particular, looks like it could be a genuinely soggy month across a wide swath of the southern United States. By November, as El Niño continues strengthening toward its projected peak, the rainfall signal across the south and southeast becomes dramatic. The polar jet, which has been responsible for those repeated cold outbreaks through April and early May, becomes progressively less active, which means the northern tier of the country runs milder than average heading into winter.